NFL to why he is the best quarterback in this draft. Hello, everybody. Glad to have you along with us. I'm Wendy Nix with Josina Anderson and Louis Riddick as we inch our way toward the 2018 draft. You will see more of Todd McShay as well as Mel Kiper Jr. Coming up in just a bit. But with all this talk about quarterbacks in the draft, what about first ballot Hall of Fame quarterbacks who are still on the field? One of those, of course, in fact, chief among them has to be Tom Brady. And here's what Robert Kraft had to say about Brady's contract to The Athletic. He'll be 41 when the season starts. Neither side has an issue with it. If it becomes an issue, we'll deal with it. Kraft on Brady's future, I hope he plays. He's at a different point in his life. He's talked about. It's interesting to see that Tom versus time and see where he's at, to see his kids growing up. But that's something for he and his family to decide what is right for him. Me, personally, I'd like to see him play as long as he can. As for Brady, he said Robert Kraft has been a second father figure to him. But anyway, the NFL is business. We know that. So panic or patience on this Tuesday. Tom Brady plays more than 2 more seasons. Lewis.
More than 2 more seasons.
More than three or more.
Yeah, I'm going to say panic. Look, I think it's well within the realm of possibility that he plays 2 seasons. But look, at this point, you cannot say anything other than the fact that it's a year-to-year proposition with him, because you don't know. You're in uncharted territory, regardless of how well he takes care of himself, which obviously is pretty darn good given how well he looked last year. But to try and project, look, it's hard to project 3 years down the road for a guy who's in his prime, let alone someone who's going to be 41 by the time September rolls around. So, yeah, I would be panicked, so to speak, that they need to have a succession plan without a doubt in place over the next 2 years. They had one. But they don't anymore.
But what had happened?
Exactly. What had happened was.
That's exactly right.
But yeah, I think going any further than that. Look, I mean, you're playing with fire there. They need to make sure they have a plan in place for sure.
Not even Tom Brady can play forever. Although sure. I'd put my money on him if I had to pick one, but yeah. It happens to everybody. Josina, panic or patience?
Yeah, definitely panicked on this because at some point you have to usher in. Woo, yes, get it going. We are both panicked.
Wait, you didn't get the lights.
You didn't get the lights. You didn't get the red light special.
Right.
Only for the lady. But we'll work on it for you. Technical problems for you. But no, panic because at some point you have to usher in the new movement. And just from a business standpoint, that is what makes sense. And Belichick has been known for, not having the most, heartfelt sentiments even after a Super Bowl. He'll get rid of you. And,
sure.
and even though Tom Brady is known for taking care of his body, even though he's passed for over 3,500 yards since 2009, and even just last season, 32 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, at some point, Father Time does catch up with you. And you don't want to wait to the last point where he just goes away and then you have this rookie who was just thrown to the wolves.
Yeah,
and that's why Teddy Bruschi said I think he would be surprised if they didn't get a quarterback because it just does feel like it's even time now.
It really is incredible, though, when you think of the numbers that the guy puts up. And it's not just a statistical-driven analysis here. When you watch him play, like we went up there in training camp and watch him move around, and you're going, that guy can't be that old.
Right.
I mean, he looks marvelous. And you really, you would expect for there to be a nice gradual, you would hope there would be some kind of sign that gradually he's starting to deteriorate, but you just don't see that. So really what's going to have to happen is, look, either you're going to be wrong and the guy could play forever, which who knows, maybe he can, or it's just going to fall off a cliff with him, which I have a hard time of seeing too. But you do have to play the odds.
But I think you do, Lewis. And to your point that we haven't really seen that same type of gradual decline that we often do, I do think it could be quick. I think it could be an instantaneous thing.
But with him, it would be so the drop-off would be so dramatic.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd probably spend the whole day talking about it.
Well, I agree, but I mean in terms of an injury or a hit or a play that makes
and that's all it takes.
And that's for anybody, but especially an older player.
I mean, we all deal with injury, right?
We all deal with injury. Todd McShay, should the Patriots draft a quarterback?
I think they will, and they should at some point. I just don't know. I mean, if you look at the landscape right now, and Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, in whichever order, are all likely to be off the board in the top 12 picks. So if that's the case and the Patriots don't plan on using all of this draft ammunition that they have to move up, which they could. I mean, they clearly could. You're talking about 4 picks in the top 63. So they're in a situation where they could do that to move up. Are you going to do that with Tom Brady as your current quarterback? I don't think that's the play. I think you've got a combination of different ways you could go, but maybe a Mike McGlinchey to replace Nate Solder at 23. At 31, then maybe you're working the defensive side again. Josh Jackson, a cornerback, is a player who could be somewhere in that range towards the bottom of the first round. Then at 43, I think is probably where you start thinking about quarterback, but you could even address the linebacker position with a guy like Darius Leonard who can cover. That's what they need, a cover linebacker. And then at 63, you're probably hoping and wishing at this point, but I'm going to go to my Richmond Spider. Kyle Lauletta seems to be a good fit. Intelligent guy, obviously. He went to University of Richmond, and he has the ability to process and go through progressions quickly, throws the ball accurately, and would be really good in that quarterback room with Tom Brady. So some scenario like this, unless they decide to surprise us and package a lot of picks and go move up for one of the top 4 quarterbacks.
Tad, thank you. And I agree that would be a surprise, but you certainly never know. And already we've seen them do some things that I think don't seem quite so Patriot-like. After months of speculation about his injured shoulder, Andrew Luck finally addressed the media yesterday. This was when the Colts reported for off-season workouts. This was the quarterback yesterday on his progress.
I've not picked up the Duke and started throwing it yet, and I don't want to skip steps. I'm trusting the process that I'm in right now very, very much. I'm trusting myself in this process. When the time is right, I'll pick it up. I'm not a perfect feeling athlete right now, by any means. So there's still a focus on me to make sure that I can feel really, really good and then be unbreakable. I don't want to put myself in a situation where this happens again. There is a timetable, but I'm not going to share it with you guys. I'm very, very confident and very, very optimistic that I am going to be absolutely fine and come back better than I was. I think I'll be a better quarterback, a better teammate, a better person. I'm very confident. One of the things I've learned about myself is I'm quite impatient as a person, and it's gotten me into places, if looking back at the rehab, that maybe I shouldn't have been in the first place. And so I don't want to repeat those maybe missteps. I cannot skip steps. I very, very strongly believe in that. Some things just take time, and I've learned that. And when I do get the urge to do something a little silly, I talk to myself, and it's not worth it right now.
It seemed yesterday, after listening to Andrew Luck, that his entire recovery has sort of been a lesson learned. There were some missteps along the way. Perhaps he pushed it too hard. And now he appears to be being a bit more patient. I use that word because panic or patience with Andrew Luck staying healthy, Josina, and perhaps playing all 16 games in 2018.
Panicked because, I'm sorry. Let me rub that in there. Okay. Yes, I would say panic just because there's still so much unknown. The last time he played a game was January 1st, 2017. A lot of time has passed, and even though he was very introspective and reflective about the things that he's learned, talking about that, he wasn't patient enough, feeling like he was skipping steps, seeing how that impacted him regressing and things like that, you still have that period where once you even get back to training camp, if he even comes back at training camp, you have to get through that portion of readjusting, getting your body back to playing at an elite level. All of that is unknown, not to mention the fact, Wendy, that last year we heard Irsay and the quarterback talking about he was coming, and then he didn't come. So we just don't know, and he's still the leader of this franchise, as so much depends on him.
I will say this, Lewis, I don't blame Andrew Luck one bit for not sharing his timetable. He's tends to be private anyway, but given what happened and given the fact that Irsay did share it and said he's coming back, and then there was disappointment and questions, I wouldn't share it either because you just don't know.
No, and right now, look, we're talking about whether or not we're panicked or patient about him being able to play 16 games. Look, I'm flat out panicked over the fact that we don't even know when he's going to play, period. And I'm not going to take Andrew Luck's word for it that he's going to be healthy for training camp, because clearly this whole rehab process has been mismanaged by somebody, whether it be he himself, who was kind of going off the reservation and doing his own thing, or the fact that there wasn't enough communication between management, the medical department, and then what his rehab protocol was supposed to be, and then holding him accountable to that. Look, this whole thing, you shouldn't be talking right now about it shouldn't be a situation where he's going, maybe I pushed it too hard, maybe I didn't listen to myself, I have to have conversations with myself about backing off and all. It's really supposed to be taken out of your hands. This is why you hire the best medical staff money can buy. And ownership and everyone else needs to stay out of it, because you're not an expert. You're not someone who can be sitting there trying to write checks on someone else's toughness, saying, like at one point it was said that, that maybe some of this was in Andrew's head and it wasn't necessarily physical and all. Don't start saying that. No, don't start saying that kind of stuff about your franchise quarterback, because you know what happens? It's kind of like it's not hard to see why maybe we're at this point now. Because who knows? Maybe the kid was pushing it too hard then. Maybe he heard the chatter. People were saying that it's in his head.
I think it's clear that was the case.
Everybody's kind of messed this thing up right now. So you know what? Everyone should just kind of be quiet.
Yeah, I agree.
Let the medical staff do their job. Andrew, follow what they tell you to do, and don't listen to anybody else, period.
Yeah. Wendy, real quick, I talked to T.Y. Hilton last night. He said, I talk to Andrew all the time. He's a guy that we built up a connection with over the last 6 years, and we told him, no need to rush. We need you in the most important times, and that doesn't even start until week 1. So
no kidding. I mean, now is not the time after all that's happened to push it. This is not, however, having said that, a roster flush with talent outside of its quarterback. The offense has a little with T.Y. Hilton, Jack Doyle, and Marlon Mack capable of production, but check out this defense. It is just not a defense capable of picking up any slack if Luck misses significant time. And you saw that last year with their 4-12 record. So we've talked about the quarterback. Obviously, when healthy, he's a game changer. But JoJo, let me ask you this. Panic or patience when it comes to the rest of this Colts roster?
It's definitely not anything that I say is notable when we are thinking about the teams that are going to be in the postseason or that we project for the postseason, not to mention that the rest of the division has come up since Andrew Luck has been out. We talked about that yesterday. Yes. I'm sorry. There you go. Panicked on it, you guys, is whether it's be with the Jaguars, whether it be with the Texans. They have a long way to go. So that's good news for Frank Reich in terms of working with this team, starting from the ground up, building it, time by time. But if you're talking about this season, they are way off.
I'm gonna be patient because I'm gonna take a longer term approach to this whole thing.
Patient as long as you don't want to win.
That's right. Yeah, but you know what I mean. A lot of the problems that this roster has is not of Chris Ballard, the current GM's doing. It's just not. A lot of the deterioration, really what he's doing is he's dismantling some things while at the same time trying to fuse the roster with talent. He probably will want to trade down and accumulate as many picks as he can. Let's just, you know what? We should have this segment after the draft or maybe after the preseason to see what kind of.
Worry.
No question about it. When they bring in some players and then we see how Frank Reich is integrating them, because I will tell you this. From knowing a little bit about Frank Reich and from talking with Doug Peterson and what Frank is going to bring to the table, then how they integrate these players and what kind of production they get out of these players, which is really the most important part. How are the players utilized also? It all works together. The GMs have to work with the coaches. Coaches need the GMs. So let's just see how this looks in September once Chris is able to do some things in this draft and the rest of this offseason before we push the button.
And how patient do you think Jim Irsay is going to be?
Well, that's a whole different.
Yeah, that's an entirely different show.
A lot of the mess that they're in right now is because of maybe some of the hirings that he's made in the past.
Well,
the decisions they made.
The problem is part of the mess. You just said it. It is a little bit of a mess, and they're going to have to dig their way out. Sure. It won't be overnight, regardless of whether you're panicked or patient. Coming up, free agent safety Eric Reed is on the road visiting with the Bengals. We'll dive into why Reed is not yet employed and why the safety market seems to be moving at a slower pace. And UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen has faced more than his fair share, in my opinion, of criticism heading into this month's draft. But our team's panic or patient about what he has to say next. However, has been slow to develop relatively. Here are a few of the notable safeties left unsigned. Former Saint Kenny Vaccaro on the market, as is ex-Panther and Charger Trey Boston. Mike Mitchell, Ron Parker, and Ladarius Webb all experienced safeties from good teams over the last few years. So, Louis, I'll just ask you this. Why does Reed not have a job yet?
Well, I'm sure there's a component to it that we all know, that there's going to be people who are going to shy away from him because of his stance and his beliefs and what he feels he's doing, which is, quite honestly, we debated till the end of time.
Correct.
But there's also a component of it here about his game and about a lot of guys on that list whose game right now is one where you're just not going to be one of the guys who are going to get signed early on in free agency because your game has holes in it. It just does. If you look at some of the names on that list, look, Kenny Vaccaro is a guy I know very well. Tyvon Branch, Trey Boston. These are all guys who in a league that has increasingly become, I don't want to just say a passing league, but a league that really emphasizes coverage, and not just man-to-man coverage, but spatial awareness in the back end, ability to make plays on footballs and do it consistently. The league just does not value these guys the way that maybe they value themselves, and therefore they're sitting. And with the draft coming up now, they're going to sit even longer, and they're going to wind up playing for very small salaries, very short contracts, and maybe they'll have a chance to prove themselves. But all these players, they have value, but just not the kind of value that warrants being signed early on in free agency.
Well, the market says so.
That's right.
At least right now.
I would say let's get to the real. because if this wasn't even a team led by Marvin Lewis, I'm not even sure that Eric Reid would have a visit right now. We all know that Eric Reid is probably the player outside of Colin Kaepernick that is most synonymous with that movement in terms of protesting for widespread injustice, socially and in our society. Okay, so, and that it is all out there, and there are owners who have been very vocal about their feelings about that as well. So if it had not been for him or maybe a team that has a African-American general manager, what have you, we haven't even seen that yet. And the list that we just made of all of the players who are still out there at that position, let me tell you who has already been signed at that position. Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus Gilchrist, Raphael Bush, Terrence Brooks, Morgan Burnett, Denoris Searcy. All those players have been signed at that position. And you were talking about those players being, there because maybe their play isn't up to snuff as well. And it's debatable as to whether you think Eric Reid, some people think he's a top 5 safety that was available for the, position to get into the free market right now and onto a team. So I don't think that it is, not understandable as to why he's not signed yet. And as the time progresses, it will definitely be illuminated that much more.
Look, again, we know it exists. Mm-hmm. We know what's going on. I'm just saying this. Look, I'm just going to keep this strictly about football because we know the other component of it, and there's really no end game as far as that discussion is concerned. I'm saying from a strictly football perspective. Look, those guys, I've watched all those guys. I know. Look, Mike Mitchell, all of them. Tyvon Branch, I've scouted them all. And in the safety market, look, there's a specific skill set that people are looking for right now that some of those guys are lacking. They just are. And therefore, their value is going to be suppressed until now, especially with the draft coming up. That's where everybody's focus is right now. No one's really looking at veterans to the point where they were early on in free agency because their emphasis is about the draft, and they're just going to have to sit and wait.
Well, exactly. And then we see after the draft, to both of your points, that's when sort of the,
third wave comes.
The third wave, the truth comes out, so to speak.
Yeah.
Richie Incognito may be close to saying he is done with football. He told the Buffalo News, well, I mean, in actuality, this is relatively clear. I'm done. That's it. It's been a long career. Went to the doctor. My liver and kidneys are shutting down. The stress is killing me. It's just about doing what's right. I just want to be in the Hall of Fame. We should say also that he fired his agents last week. So, another move perhaps toward retirement. It appears he's had enough. But that notwithstanding, how big a deal is this for the Buffalo Bills, Lewis?
Well, look, he's still a solid player, a guy who has been periodically a dominant run-blocking force in the NFL, a guy who plays the game on the edge, who plays with a very physical style. He is solid in the pass game, and a guy who really... Look, every team, it's interesting because guard play in the NFL, I think, has become more and more important as time has gone on because every team is looking to be strong down the middle, and Richie was one of the strongest, and he's played some of his best ball lately. So it's a big deal to Buffalo because Buffalo traditionally has been a team that has been a ground-and-pound football team and opportunistic in the passing game. So you need players like this, and he will be someone that they will need to replace, especially in terms of his toughness and what he brings to the run game.
Well, also, though, changing and evolving is the way players see their life after football, and we have seen a number of players, it's been a trend over the last few years, to retire when they can still contribute, but making the decision that it's better for them physically.
Yeah, and he sets a tone in the locker room, on that line, with his personality, with his presence, so it's not just that as well. And we all know that our offensive line moves as a unit. So you move one piece, you kind of change around the cohesion. You just brought in a new quarterback in there. You got rid of Tyrod Taylor. You bring in A.J. McCarron. You still need the running game to go with McCoy. So even though it is just one piece and the guard is not the left tackle, protecting your blind side or what have you, I see him as a very integral piece for this Buffalo Bills team. So I think he's a player that's going to definitely be missed.
Will be missed. In a Q&A cover story this week in ESPN, the magazine, highly scrutinized UCLA quarterback Josh Rosen was asked, what's the most jerkish thing you've done? That's not my question, but somebody did ask him. Find out what he had to say, what his answer was. I wasn't sure jerkish. Former UCLA quarterback turned top draft prospect is on the cover of ESPN the magazine, hitting newsstands Friday. He's also the subject of an in-depth Q&A on a wide variety of topics. We'll start with this, Josh Rosen, on who is the best quarterback in the draft. I'm the best quarterback in the draft. A lot of guys are flashier, but I think I'm the most efficient, monotonously consistent quarterback in this draft. Rodgers has some flair, but if you watch Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, there's nothing that's explosive or Johnny Manziel-like. it's just quarterbacking. Todd McShay back with us. Todd, does he have a point?
Yeah, he has a point. To be honest with you, I wish we didn't have to ask all these questions because they all come off as arrogant and self-serving. But all the quarterbacks are asked these questions, and they all want to let everyone know that they think that they're the best quarterback. So, I mean, it's kind of old news to me at this point. We've heard the same things from all these top quarterbacks, and there's really nothing that stands out that he's done or said that to me is a turnoff to NFL teams.
Well, we put them in a bad position because if they don't say they're the best, then we say, whoa, is the lack of confidence an issue? What's his assessment of his own play? If he does, he sounds arrogant. Why is he not your top quarterback?
Durability is a big reason. He's had the shoulder injury. He's had multiple concussions, and he's a thin frame guy. If you look at his shoulders, he's not as wide and thick as you kind of ideally look for. That's one area. Lack of mobility is another, but I've got him as the number 2 quarterback. I think he's worthy of a top 10 pick and could very easily go in the top 5 picks overall, and I think he's the natural. When you watch him on tape, no quarterback in this class, and probably the last few classes, understands what he's looking for pre-snap and processes what he sees from the defense post-snap as quickly and effectively as Josh Rosen. Then you add the fact it's just an average okay arm, but he is accurate and he's on time and he's very consistent with his anticipation of throws. So if you get him in the right system with a little bit of protection up front and the right weapons around him, I think he has a chance to have a lot of success in the league, and he could have it early because he's ready.
Where do you have Rosen?
I have him second. I have him behind Baker. And I'll say this about Josh. As this process goes on, and after reading this article, I went into this article last night when I was reading it in my room going, I'm expecting to not like him. I'm expecting to really want to really just put the nail in the coffin with him even more. And as a matter of fact, I started pulling him out. And I started going, I want to know more about this kid. I want to know a little bit more. Let me tell you something. Scouting sometimes can become very lazy, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks and when it's a high-stakes pick. People look for things so they can just be on one side of the line or the other. So like with Josh Rosen, for instance, right? I've seen this 1,000 times in my scouting career, which is a guy who comes from money can't be intrinsically motivated to really want to be great because he has money, so he doesn't really need the game. That's so stupid to even hear. So if he couldn't make it in football and he didn't have to actually, struggle in life, that means that he doesn't really love the game. You equate his parents'
he's just
financial
motivated
situation.
to have success.
Exactly. That's something I never heard of. Someone can actually be motivated who has money already.
And you know this too. You know this from years scouting. Unfortunately, the scouts aren't making a ton of money, and they're on the road. They're leaving their family for 130, 140 out of 170 or 180 days. They're angry. They're tired. They're sick of staying in Holiday Inns and everywhere else. Yeah. And they come to UCLA, this beautiful campus with this kid who has the hot tub pictures, and they know about the money. They know about the family history and all of that. So it's very easy when you start to hear anything negative to jump on that. How about we get him with a coordinator who can challenge him mentally in the NFL and get the most out of him rather than what he had in college with that coaching situation?
Scouting inherently is a negative business because you're looking for ways, right? You're trying to eliminate risk as far as you going back to your general manager and wanting to stand on the table. So you're looking for all the bad things in the first place so you can say, hey, look, here are all the bad things about why we shouldn't take this guy. Here are a few of the good things. But I just want to let you know, in case he fails,
it doesn't work out,
you don't crush me for it.
Yeah.
So people look for that kind of thing. But as far as how he plays the game, he plays it the way the NFL wants it played. Pre-snap and he's as smooth as silk as the way he plays the game.
And the way he plays the game, you know he's working.
Right.
Because you can't play that smart if you're not working.
Exactly. Look, his play justifies that he is committed to playing the game as good as he can play it. Don't hold it against him if he likes to do other things. Now, I would want to know more. I would want to talk to him more personally and be like, okay, look, when we bring you in here, he said this also in that article, it's important that the main thing remains the main thing, which is I'm here to play football. I'm not here to do all this other stuff. I'm here to play football first. I'd want to know that that's what he's going to do. Because if that's what he will do, he's the best thrower in this draft.
Well, listen, after hearing his college coach wax poetic over the last 2 weeks, I would question the leadership he had there to begin with, because I've heard enough to wonder what was going on. Josina, what are the impressions of Josh Rosen? We know, I mean, we've talked enough about it, but you're talking to players, to current coaches. What's the impression?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say, someone's socioeconomic background is not just what engenders, certain impressions as well. These are things that came from, teammates and some people around the program. So when I was at the Combine, I specifically asked Josh Rosen directly, why do you think that some people associate you with having a bad attitude? And I was actually prepared for him to sound defensive about it. But what I really liked about his answer is that he was thoughtful and honest. And he said, you know what, to me, he said, it is actually hurtful to me. It's hurtful that people have walked away with that impression of me. And so actually, I don't want it to be like that. And I do want it to change. And what struck me about that answer is that it gives me hope, because nobody is perfect. And there are times when we have bad days and good days and we say things and don't say things that are positive and negative. But if you can be introspective about yourself, then you have the ability to adapt and learn and grow wiser. And that's why I appreciated that answer, because he was honest about it. He was thoughtful about it, which makes me know that he thinks about himself as a person and as a player and how he would interact with other people.
He alluded to that in the article. He said
did.
that, look, I earned some of this.
I made a mistake.
Yeah,
I earned this. So he's not running from him. He's not saying, oh, that's just people just talking smack because they're jealous.
Which he could have said.
Exactly.
Right.
And a lot of people will.
He wouldn't have been the first.
And not only that, there were a couple players who did speak up for him at the Combine by the podium, saying this is a player that I would want to get into the foxhole with. So I did hear that as well from other people. It wasn't just like a complete negative commentary around him.
We all made mistakes when we were 18 years old, and if you're handed the keys to this UCLA
as he said,
football,
he also said.
Now you're all of a sudden we're supposed to be great, and now I'm here, the chosen rose and all that. I mean, he was immature, and he's starting to mature, and I think it's somewhat natural that this process occurs around 18 to 22 years old.
So Wendy, you can play with
in his case, he has to do it under, with a glaring spotlight, which is, of course, what he's chosen.
The expectations are very high for this young man. And where he's going to be picked, I mean, he's going to be expected to save a franchise. So, of course, everything's going to get magnified. We wouldn't be talking about this if he was a mid-round quarterback. You wouldn't really care if he had some of the, if he took hot tub pictures and all this other stuff and was talking about Elon Musk and going to Mars. I mean, all the stuff that he's interested in, you'd be like, oh, yeah, okay, well, he's kind of eccentric and all. But the guy's going to be a top 5 pick. So everyone's going to comb through this with a fine-tooth comb and put him under a microscope, as you should. And as he's already said, look, I expect it, bring it on. I have nothing to hide anymore.
Yeah, and you know what? With any job, whether it's reporting or being a quarterback in the NFL, sometimes people say 70% of the job is actually just managing people and learning people, and 30% of it is actually the job. So if he can take those lessons in college and get them now so that when he's dealing with a locker room of men, it will serve him well. And by the way, playing with the chip can also be beneficial, as worked for Aaron Rodgers.
No kidding, and Tom Brady. Here is Rosen on his former UCLA coach, Jim Mora, who we mentioned earlier, calling him a challenge. Mora called Rosen a challenge. I think you can take radioactive material and concentrate it. You can get something real special out of it. People go, he's radioactive, but that's pretty powerful if you know how to point it in the right direction. I think he was trying to be positive here. And say that, when channeled correctly, this is a good thing. But, do you need to use the word radioactive, Todd? I'm not so sure. Or does it concern you from someone who arguably should know him well?
I mean, anything that is spoken by Coach Mora, to be quite honest with you, I'm not processing it. So that's probably the best way I can put it.
Sure. Look, I mean, the choice of words, using the word radioactive. Look, I know how Josh was trying to, I don't even want to say spin it. I know what he was trying to say. He's trying to use the coach's words and say, hey, look, okay, if you want to call me radioactive, if you want, which is what synonymous with maybe being a challenge, being someone who's kind of well-versed, who has a big mind, who likes to think about a lot of different things. Well, take that, channel it in the right direction here. I think it can be pretty positive. I think he has a chance to be someone who is a very special type of quarterback, is what he's trying to say. And you're right. Look, coaches have to be very careful, especially coaches who have been let go by a university. You have to be very careful with what you take away from them and how they are kind of painting a picture of some of their former players. Everybody has agendas.
Sour grapes,
Everybody's looking for clicks. Everybody's looking for attention. Everybody wants someone to say, hey, look at me. Look at what I said. Look, I don't want to use the word hot take, but I'm the one who said something that's kind of different than what everyone else said. And that's not to say, again, the kid has acknowledged that he has made mistakes, and some people may think he is a jerk. But as Josina alluded to, at least he says, look, that does bother me that people think that because I've earned it. Look, don't start trying to crush kids like that and start using words like radioactive and stuff when you know it's going to get a lot of run on shows like this.
It's a very intelligent way of saying, you know what? If you want to call me radioactive, that's fine. But if you had done something better with me and put some better parts around me and maybe coach me a little bit better, maybe we would have won some more games.
And you know what? I I'm with him on this one. I'm with Josh Rosen all the way to the bank on this one after seeing the past few weeks.
I'm telling you, I never thought I would come out of an article going, I want to know the kid more.
I did
I'm
too.
sitting there reading it last night going, I can't wait to talk about this kid tomorrow because I have a different mindset about how I view him now than before.
The more high-level team officials I talked to who've spent more quality time, not just the 15-minute interview, but more quality time, are starting to come away with, hey, if we have the right people to challenge him and to, mentally can be on the right level, we get a chance to get it really special.
You mean the relationship thing?
Yeah.
Oh, who preaches that? Somebody I know.
And I just wanted to illuminate real quickly that it does really depend on who is molding you and who is shaping you. I mean, we have a really recent example in Jared Goff under the Jeff Fisher tenure versus the Sean McVay.
Say no more.
And so that's all. And then exactly. And we're talking about a 22 QBR the year before, and then look at what they did going into the playoffs the next year, which is the whole set of new people coaching you, believing in you, and being optimistic. That's the same for NFL players. That's the same for a quarterback. That's the same for any employee at a business.
That's
when you have
life.
people behind. That's
right.
life. Thank
That's
you.
right. That's
Absolutely.
Well, we got it all figured out. So look, it's So
saves the world right here.
Right here, all set. Nevertheless, we're going to continue. We'll mess this up in a few minutes anyway. If you had one game to win and needed a quarterback from the NFC South, who would it be? Breeze, Jameis, Newton, or Ryan? That's
good group.
That is a good group from which to choose. We'll tackle this straight ahead.
Need to put Ndamukong Suh out there.
But Matt Ryan says there has been positive dialogue between his side and his team, the Atlanta Falcons, regarding a potential contract extension. The Falcons have certainly made it a priority this offseason to secure Ryan for a few more years after he took this team to the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago and was the MVP in 2016.
As I've been through it in the past, timetables are tough. I know that, discussions, all those things have been good. So it'll get done when it's supposed to get done. I've always had the mindset that you kind of let your agents handle the business and let our front office take care of it. And, I think we've got great people on both sides. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being a Falcon for a long time.
Also a new dad of twins, I might add. So look, things are all good in the Ryan household. He could use that money. He's got some mouths to feed. But panic or patience, this extension gets done, Lewis, by training camp.
You know what? I'm going to remain patient with this because these are one of those things that really have to.
No, that's panic.
Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I'm going to remain patient. God, see, I saw you reach for it. I was like, what am I doing?
I was going to move it out of your way.
I really do think this is one of those situations where they are not. Yeah, how about that? I don't think they're gonna wind up having any issues getting this done. He wants to be there. The organization knows that he can't get out of there. It's one of those where, like, rarely do you see this kind of thing happen sooner than it should. A lot of times it's later than people want it to. A lot of times it's at the 11th hour. It's a big contract. It's a big investment. There's a lot of ramifications that come from investing this kind of money and committing this kind of money to a quarterback like this, how it affects the rest of the roster. So that takes a lot of planning, and a lot of times that takes some people really having to sit there and really just get off the rear end and go, okay, let's just get it done. And it'll get done.
It will get done.
I mean, and this is what you see with quarterbacks, whether it be Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan, a couple of years left, you want to get them done. Obviously, Breeze has been taken care of as far as just, being in the free agent market. This is a guy who had 20 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, has thrown 4,000 plus yards since 2011. So you see the contribution from that standpoint. But at the same time, as you were just alluding to at the back end of that answer, a lot of other things need to get taken care of. This is a team that just has $3.5 million in cap space. You want to be able to make other moves to really augment the team as well. So you got to really ask yourself, even though other quarterbacks are getting done with 2 years left, is this really the best time for our team based off what we haven't been able to do in the free agent market and not being as active with other teams being more aggressive?
Are we asking about contracts earlier and earlier? I mean, forget 1 year left. Now we're going to 2 years. I mean, it's
why is it necessary?
That is a question. Yeah. The Bucs don't start off-season activities until Monday, but Jameis Winston making promises for 2018 already. The Bucs quarterback tweeting out a story from the Tampa Bay Times with the headline, "What are the Buccaneers going to do with Deshaun Jackson?" He responded saying, "We got this. I personally will make sure we show how valuable Deshaun Jackson is to our team and to the league. We need, or the league needs, or the team needs, whomever, Jameis Winston to bounce back. Over the first 9 years of his career, no one had more catches deeper than 25 yards downfield than did Deshaun Jackson. He couldn't replicate that production in year one with the Bucs. Winston 1 for 15 with an interception targeting Jackson on those deep throws last year. Over or under throwing 9 out of his 15 attempts. That is 60% of his throws. Again, I ask you, panic or patience? Winston does return to form in 2018.
I think you have to be patient. So namaste, as you were saying before.
Don't touch it.
Simply because look at the quarterbacks that we have been patient with that came in even before him in 2012, whether it be Andrew Luck. Look at what's going on with him. RG3, look at what's going on with him. Basically, Russell Wilson is the one that's emerging in that class. Jameis Winston has come after. Now, you don't want a 3-10 record from a quarterback where it seems like they're backsliding, but I know he's been working with that quarterback's coach to try to get more accurate, particularly in the second level. And then you bring in a weapon like Deshaun Jackson. You would think that they would be able to stretch that vertical game, get it open. It hasn't worked out with Deshaun Jackson and Jameis Winston, and that connection in Tampa wasn't necessarily working on the backside of his career in Washington as well. So they've got to figure that out. But my main point is if you're going to be patient with those other quarterbacks that we just named, then I would think you'd have to be patient with him.
Yeah,
too.
I think this one's pretty simple. You definitely are patient here. Look, Jameis dealt with some injuries last year. Getting on the same page with a speedster like Deshaun takes some time, and I think it's something that they will click with. Look, I have pulled up all of those throws. I pulled up all of his targets to Deshaun Jackson and looked at them, and some of them were ugly, where Deshaun is 2, 3, 4, 5 yards past the secondary, and he has underthrown him or overthrown him by a mile. So you expect better out of Jameis, and Jameis is of the pedigree and is of the talent level that he'll hit those, and you definitely don't throw in the towel on this because there were big plays to be had last year, and they need to go ahead and hit those in 2018.
All right, walk with me here because we have these fancy cutouts, which I have to tell you, I'm impressed by. As we talk about quarterbacks in this division, and when you read about, like we did earlier, it's an impressive group.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm going to ask you, Lewis, this question, and you see these guys, all four. If you have, and the operative phrase here is one game.
One game.
If you just have to win one game, not a season, not a career, one game, who do you take out of this group?
Oh, man.
No pressure.
This is easy.
They're only watching you.
This is easy for me. Okay? Oh,
That's
it's definitely Drew Brees.
Yeah.
It's definitely Drew Brees. Look, Drew right now, look, it's amazing to me that someone as accomplished as Drew Brees does not get the kind of, I believe, this well-rounded and kind of well-traveled respect that this guy deserves. I mean, he has thrown for a gazillion yards in his career, 5,000-yard seasons. No other quarterback has done it more than once. He's done it 5 times or 4 times. I believe it's 5 times. And Drew is like the ultimate computer processor as far as knowing what to do pre-snap, being able to make all the throws post-snap. He's done it with a myriad of different weapons throughout his career. And if I had to win one football game, and I know it's going to be on the shoulders of this guy, on this quarterback, this is the guy I'm going after. And that's no disrespect to Jameis. Jameis is still earning his. Matt Ryan, look, I like you, but you're not in Drew's caliber. And Cam, I like you. You're not a Drew's caliber.
You're so much taller than Drew these days.
I think that's realistic too. And I keep tripping over his cardboard foot.
Yeah, good thing it's just one game.
Yeah.
How about the next 5 years? I'm afraid you can't take Drew Brees on this one. I would. No.
Drew's about to fall. Exactly. Well, it's not going to be him because he's about to fall down.
Right.
It's going to be Jameis Winston. That's the guy who I would want over the next 5 years.
I think Matt Ryan.
Absolutely.
And over Cam Newton.
Yes. Look, I think. Look.
Do you want me to hold this for you?
He is a better thrower than Cam, and Matt Ryan as well. As much as I like him, I think Jameis is about to start hitting his stride. I do believe he is committed to the game. I do believe he has all the physical attributes needed to play this game at a high level, as well as the mental attributes to play this game at a high level. He has some tremendous weaponry around him, and it will only get better. And I think Jameis is going to get better. He just needs to stay healthy. He needs to stay dialed in. He needs to start hitting some of those big throws that we talked about. And I think he's going to be just fine. He's one of those guys who I would bet on. I wouldn't have said that early on in his career when he came out.
This surprises me a little bit.
But no, I would take him. And again, no disrespect to Matt Ryan or Cam, who I love them both.
Listen.
But this is the guy who I put my money on.
They're both calling you right now like,
none of them are going to be survivors.
Hello.
You need to call Thomas Dimitroff, not me.
If we stay here, things are going to happen. I sense bad things are going to happen.
Down.
So Todd McShay will bail us out when we come back. He's here with his grade A mock draft. His opinion, not what he thinks will happen, what he thinks should happen. Straight ahead on NFL Live. He did not go unnoticed. You can hardly argue he was under the radar, not the way he played last season. Todd McShay back with us with his grade A mock draft. But you have to explain how this is different from version 4.0 or 3.0 or the other mock drafts that we see. There's a distinct difference.
It's a Kuiper creation.
Okay, Kuiper.
You get to choose who you want, not based off of what you're hearing.
Well, no, that's important. The other mock drafts are what you think will happen.
Right.
This is what you would do if you were in charge.
Right. It's an interesting exercise.
I like
it tugs at you in terms of the need and best player available. I thought about just giving my rankings and just being done with it in 5 minutes, but that wouldn't have been any fun. Right.
And you have Sam Darnold at quarterback. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But let's go straight to the Giants because some say quarterback, some say you can't pass on Saquon Barkley. You've gone in a different direction and have them taking Bradley Chubb.
Yeah, this is a tough choice because part of me wanted to give him a quarterback, kind of going off the theory that they believe that they can get a few more years out of Eli Manning, and if that's the case, it's a tough call again between Bradley Chubb, in my opinion, and Saquon Barkley. But Chubb, to me, is such a complete player. I just love the way he practices, the way he works, the leadership that he's going to bring to the team. This team needs pass rushers. When it was a great team winning Super Bowls, it had pass rushers, and it had a lot of them. And so to me, Bradley Chubb makes a lot of sense. If you're going to stick with Eli, pass rushers become so important today, Mel.
There he is, Mel Kiper to rebuttal.
Well, I agree with Todd. I think it's very difficult to pass up Bradley Chubb, who's the second best player in this draft behind maybe Saquon Barkley. You think Barkley as a running back, do you value that position enough to take the running back over the great pass rusher when after Marcus Davenport from Texas San Antonio, there's a big drop-off. And really there's a gap between Chubb and Davenport. So to Todd's point, it's really Chubb and everybody else as a down defensive end. So you can't argue with Bradley Chubb anywhere between 2 and 6. You just can't. Even at number 1, you couldn't argue, but they have Myles Garrett, Cleveland doesn't, are on their way and they're going to take a quarterback. But I have no issue with Bradley Chubb. He is a great player with a great approach to the job at hand, which is rare for a defensive end who hustles even onto the practice field every day.
Fair enough, but having said that, Lewis, Josina, should the Giants be taking a quarterback? Eli's getting older as well.
Listen, I've said this over and over again. I definitely feel like they should get a quarterback. I understand what Mel is saying, that you can't argue with getting Bradley Chubb between 2 or 6, but here's the difference. The Giants, if they do their job and they play up to their standard, they're not always going to be picking at number 2. So this is why you take the opportunity now. If you believe in any one of those quarterbacks, that you get the quarterback now. Eli Manning, I know that they believe in him, but even if you think he can play for 2 or 3 more years, are you going to wait till he gets at the very end of those 2 or 3 more years and then try to look for a quarterback when you're picking 19, 20, or 25? This is why you take advantage of it now. There's a reason why they struggled getting the ball down the field, and it's not just because of the offensive line or the running game. Some of that has to do with Eli Manning's lack of mobility, and you have to address that so you can get the field down, so you can get the ball down the field to your weapons and Sterling Shepard and Odell Beckham Jr.
When you're drafting number 2, I think it was Dave Gettleman himself who said, you're drafting a player who you think can eventually put on a gold jacket. You're drafting a player who you think eventually is going to be one of those people you put in the Ring of Fame in your stadium. And if you don't feel like one of these quarterbacks is going to put you there relative to what you can get with some of these other players, then you don't take them. And you wind up crossing that bridge down the road if you think that one of these other guys presents better value to you. I personally am of the belief that they shouldn't take the quarterback here, that they should take Chubb, they should take Saquon Barkley. One of those 2 players, I believe, will wind up in a New York Giants uniform, and both of those players will be all rookie. Both of those players will be Pro Bowlers. Both of those players will be all pros, which is what you have to have when you're drafting at number 2.
But you know what? It almost feels like this is the same scenario that the Browns were in last year. Obviously taking Myles Garrett and then Deshaun Watson being there and not taking him. And it's like if the Browns had the opportunity to do it all over again, would you have gone with Deshaun Watson or you go with Myles Garrett, presuming that you're not playing bad again and you're not at the top of the draft again?
True, but look, the Browns, look, you can say what you want about Eli Manning, and we know that Eli is on the back 9, maybe at the 18th hole. Maybe he is. But the Browns had nobody. They had nobody at quarterback. These 2 organizations, I don't even think you can draw a parallel between the 2. And look, I'm not saying that Eli may be done after this year. Maybe he is. But I think that right now, given everything else on this roster and where they think they are headed and what they think they can get out of these 2 players that we're talking about in particular relative to the quarterbacks, And I'm going with one of these two.
Let's go back to the Browns for just a minute, since we talk about, whenever you talk about drafting at the top, you talk about Cleveland because they've been there a lot. You've got them taking a quarterback, Sam Darnold. If they don't take Sam Darnold but walk away with a quality quarterback or one that you deem as quality, is it still a grade A draft? Does it have to be Sam Darnold?
I mean, listen, whichever quarterback is number one on their board, it's their choice. No one can take it away from them, and no one can force them to take a quarterback that they don't want. Whoever they think is going to work best with what they want to do and the coaches they have on hand is the one they should take. So at the end of the day, it matters what you get out of the quarterback you draft, not what we put in some silly mock draft. I personally think Sam Darnold's the best quarterback in the class. Lewis thinks it's Baker Mayfield. Kiper thinks it's Josh Allen. So there's different opinions, and it also matters what you're trying to do with your scheme. To me personally, if I'm drafting for any team, I would take Darnold, but I think he fits well with what they want to do.
Can I jump in here real quick and just say this about the Cleveland Browns in particular, and about just about every team that's drafting up here that needs a quarterback? And relative to these quarterbacks right here, we can sit here and we can chop these kids up over and over and over again about their strengths and weaknesses and which one's the best one and which one's not, which one has this attribute, which one doesn't. What will determine what these kids do, and especially at that number one position, is who's coaching them.
Absolutely.
And whether or not it's going to be Hugh Jackson this year or if John Dorsey's going to blow that staff out of here and bring another one in here, I promise you this, whoever they draft, I would put money on this. That kid's not going to screw it up. The Browns will screw it up for them if it does happen that way, because you know it's going to be a team that's in a state of transition come January.
Well,
we're going to be talking about this
quarterbacks
team.
And
well, we'll see how much he knows.
They brought in Zampese for a reason, too, to work with the quarterbacks.
I'm not on that boat, Josina. I'm not on that whole Hugh Jackson is a quarterback whisperer and he knows quarterbacks. We're going to find out.
I think that's
work that he's done prior to even coming to Cleveland.
With who?
I mean, with Andy, with Joe Flacco, Carson Palmer, what have you. I'm talking about when he was specifically working with those guys. Those guys did elevate and did progress. Now, coming here where you're working with, where you're devoid of talent and certain things are going on beyond your control and you're working with people in the front office, there's other factors that impact him. But he knows how to call a game and work with quarterbacks.
We're going to see.
Mm-hmm. Mel Kiper, where do you weigh in on all this?
Here's what I was saying. That's to Lewis's point. I think it's well taken about other players, and don't let the quarterback override the great players or overlook them. I heard exactly that about Matthew Stafford when Sanchez and Stafford were in that draft. Stafford's overrated. Stafford's a thrower, not a pitcher, and you should take the other guys. Look at the other guys in that draft that maybe you would have taken over Matthew Stafford if you would have taken that argument and applied it to that draft when Stafford went number one. There's bust after bust after bust. There's so-called other better players at other positions. Just be a little careful of that. Don't put them in the Hall of Fame just based on college, because it's a big transition. And one thing some of these quarterbacks have, particularly Josh Allen, is a rocket arm and freakish talent. So I think for Cleveland, if they go that route and the Giants end up with Darnold, is it a grade A for both teams? I think it would be at that point. And certainly, that's why I say for the Giants. Giants are in a great spot. They cannot go wrong at number 2. Trading out, taking Allen or Darnold, taking Barkley or Chubb. Dave Gettleman's in a remarkable position.
Mel, thank you, and that's why we can talk about this all day long, and we will. More from Todd and Mel in this grade A mock draft. You can find out where he has quarterback prospect Lamar Jackson going, one of the, I don't think divisive is the right word, more intriguing, I guess, draft prospects out there. A lot of different opinions. So
we see it right now.
We'll see. Yeah, that's right. I guess I gave it away. Well, find out what we think about it. How about that?
Don't look.
On ESPN for the 39th straight year, coming to you from AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, April 26th through the 28th. Trey Wingo will host alongside Mel Kiper, Louis Riddick, and Kirk Herbstreit. Nobody covers the NFL draft like we do. All 3 days also streaming live on the ESPN app. And we are back with Todd McShay's, what do we call it? Grade A mock draft. What he would do if he was making the choices.
He gets a kick out of that name.
I got a kick out of yesterday spending
that tie pin over there is grade A. He said you look like Jay Wright.
All right, which is not a bad thing. Okay, so Todd, I gave it away earlier. I said we'll see where you had Lamar Jackson. And
nice tease, Wendy.
Yeah, nice tease, because you can clearly see where you had Lamar Jackson. What I didn't tell you is why. So that's what you're going to do now.
Yeah.
It's just intriguing to me because the deal that they just signed with Blake Bortles doesn't lock them down. I think that they're still kind of the Jaguars looking at who's going to be the quarterback long term. Bringing in Lamar Jackson, you know that Lamar needs work, and he might not be ready day one to start in this league, but he's a player that has so much upside because of the explosive athleticism. He's got potential, I think, and if you can work on his mechanics and get that narrow base right where he's more consistent, you may have something really, really special. And in the meantime, you could probably use him in some short yardage and goal line packages in different ways as a first-year player to get the ball in his hands. So, I don't know. It just was an intriguing fit for me. I think there's some other spots in the 20s, too. Ultimately, my guess is he goes in the first round, but it's probably going to be in the bottom half of the first round.
He is... Look, we're going to have some really
He's
cool.
tough.
We're going to have some really cool stuff on draft night, folks. You're going to want to watch that as far as what we're going to show about him in particular, because everyone keeps talking about Lamar as this athlete. Why hasn't he run the 40? Athlete. You put in some special packages, all this other stuff. When he played his best football, guess what he was running? a pro-style offense. Guess what the personnel groupings look like, the kind of things you see on Sunday. Guess what the route tree looked like, the kind of things you see on Sunday. When he got into trouble was when people started going 5 wides, 4 wides in the back, and actually just put it all on him, and it all just looked like, like you see a lot of these offenses in college where they're just throwing the ball all over the place. When it was within structure, he looked darn good. What Lamar needs is to look. All these teams are not created equal. All the teams that need quarterbacks, they're not all going to teach him the same way. He needs to go to the best one. That's what really determines success, failure with players. So let's just see where he gets drafted and what kind of system they run before we start saying whether or not he can play quarterback or not.
But you know what? If he
a lot
is
of things that
running
go into this.
And if he is running that pro-style offense, then he shouldn't be any less ready than Deshaun Watson when we saw what he did when he. I understand that, but he was running a pro-style offense, which is different from what Deshaun Watson was doing in college. As a matter of fact, this is where Todd McShay has him right here at 29, but I've heard some positive input coming out on Lamar Jackson from the Chargers, who think he is very special. They call him a different player. He's been very productive. We also know that the Browns over here are going to bring Lamar Jackson in for a visit as well, get under the hood with that. So we'll see what actually happens. I do think that Todd is right that he'll probably go more so down here, but I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up here.
Extremely committed to playing quarterback, we know that. Not interested really in even talking to teams who may not want him to do that. So fair enough, he's earned that right, and we'll see. We'll see. The draft is coming, but we got a satellite team, all satellite team.
Yeah,
okay.
that I'm interested in.
All right. Oh wait, just say
best in space.
The best in space. Everybody's interested in these.
Oh, that's a.
Oh, I get it.
That is fantastic. Okay, here we go. Oh my God, really? This is happening. Odell Beckham Jr., this is like your alumni, I think, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 12 touchdowns.
It's a distinguished group. You want to be on this group.
It is a distinguished group, Brandon Cooks. Todd saw it coming. Yes, he did. 16 career touchdowns of at least 25 yards. That's tied with Beckham for most in the league. Hire ToddMcShay.com. McShay tabbed Tyler Lockett before he was a third-round pick in 2015. One of 2 players with a kick return, punt return, receiving, and rushing touchdown in the last 3 years. Christian McCaffrey, huge part of the Panthers' offense last season. Only the 4th running back in NFL history.
I don't know what's funny here,
80
Wendy.
catches in his rookie season.
What's with all the laughing?
The music is funny. Dalvin Cook, long. You saw this too. I don't know what to say.
Forget the Heisman. This is the
first month
hardware
of the season,
you want.
Cook was 3rd in the league in scrimmage yards before his knee injury. Listen. All hail Todd McShay from the Verizon film room. I can't even talk, and he knows everything. It's a tough juxtaposition. All right, let's look at this year's all-satellite team. Again, players great in space. We'll count them down. Number 5.
Bunch of sad guys here. They're not number 1. Mike Hughes.
I can see that.
Central Florida, cornerback and return specialist. Not many corners get on this list. What is going on? Susan, I know you're behind this. Kick returner, this dude is dangerous. He ran a 4.53 in the 40, so he doesn't have elite top speed, but you see he is dangerous with the ball in his hand. This past year, 32 yards per kick return, 17 yards per punt return, 3 touchdowns. Really impressive.
All right, number 4.
Number 4 is Calvin Ridley. Again, didn't have explosive numbers at the combine, but did run the 4.4 40-yard dash, and I think his game is just built on speed and quickness. He's a great route runner. It's not necessarily part of this whole satellite team shtick, but that is right there. His ability to make guys miss after the catch. I think this is why he's going to be the first wide receiver taken, maybe the second. But at the end of the day, I think he translates to today's NFL game well because he can run routes, get open, and separate. And that's what we saw from guys like Juju Smith-Schuster a year ago, who ran a 4.65 or 4.58. But wound up being very productive as a rookie.
Listen, in fairness, there's more attributes, right, to being great in space than just speed. Although I would recognize that's probably at the top of the list, but you got to have a little.
There you go.
It's a technical term. Number 3.
Kiki Kuti, Texas Tech. Say that name 5 times fast. Return specialist and slot receiver. This guy is a burner. He had 32 yards per kick return with a touchdown this past year and only had 10 kick returns because he was starring as a slot receiver for Texas Tech, where he had 1,429 receiving yards and does a great job after the catch. Explosive with the ball in his hands. Now, he's not the biggest guy. He's going to have to fight to get off the press in the NFL, but he's a player that if he gets the ball in a little bit of space, look out.
All right, listen, this is coveted spots here. Number 2. We got 2 to go.
I know.
Who was number 1 last year?
This was one of the toughest year. Last year, I don't even remember.
Okay, all right. I
sent away the hardware.
Number 2.
I think it was Dalvin Cook.
Okay.
Lamar Jackson is 1A. Really struggled with this.
Wow, interesting.
I know quarterbacks usually don't make this list, but he is dynamic with the ball in his hands. I think you could argue the most dynamic the last couple of years in college football. You just look, design plays, designed runs, and also design passes where there's nothing available for him. His ability to make defenders miss is special. I think he's the most explosive quarterback with the ball in his hands since Michael Vick coming out. And again, as Lewis talked about last segment, and I agree, if he gets in the right place and is coached properly and work on his mechanics a little bit and is used the right way, this guy has a lot of special talent, and he did it and won all those games with a surrounding group. You're not going to hear many guys from Louisville, especially on the offensive side, drafted last year or this year. He was carrying that football team.
And sometimes, Lewis also pointed out that as a scout, we want to knock these guys. We almost make it a negative that he's so dynamic with the ball in his hands, because then we go to immediately, oh, can he throw? Will he throw? Will he be willing to throw? I think it's interesting. Okay, top guy, top dog.
Saquon Barkley. I had to go with him. It was tough between Barkley and Lamar Jackson. Barkley, just such a special talent. He's going to be, if it's not number 2 overall to the Giants, very likely number 4 overall to the Browns. 233 pounds. You heard him there talking to his family about the 40-yard dash. Well, he nailed it. He ran a 4.40 at 233. Not many guys have his talent level, and in addition, he's just such a good dude, hard worker, great teammate, great leader. Running back is a position that we say maybe we overvalue it, or maybe it doesn't have the same value as it used to. Bottom line is, it's hard to see a future where Saquon Barkley does not have a great NFL career.
It looks like things are looking out for Saquon Barkley. There he is right there, a picture with LeBron James. Find out why.
Looks so small.
More Todd McShay in a spacesuit. I hope.
Oh, jeez.
Because that was the highlight.